Hi, this is Lori, and in this episode of my Pico W series, I'm going to be working on modifying the word clock that I purchased from GurgleApps. Well, here's a picture of the full kit that you can purchase from GurgleApps. They got a 3D printed case. You have the faceplate, which has the color LED matrix behind it, and this lights up the words that will tell you the time in 5-minute increments. So you can see past and to, and if you look in here, you can see the different numbers buried in this matrix of letters. So it's really fun, and the fact that you have this color LED matrix, you can choose what colors you want things to light up. Really, really fun. And so you can buy this whole kit that has everything you need to put it together. Or you can buy just the portions of it. So I chose to purchase just the faceplate and the color LED matrix, and that also came with the nuts and bolts. And I wanted to 3D print my own case. Well, I got it over the summer, so I'm finally getting a chance to put this together. And I 3D printed this case in one of my favorite colors, purple. And was starting to put it together, and I looked at it and I thought, I would like to make some modifications to this case. And I am not I'm not very good at modifying or doing CAD work so that I could change the design. So I decided to just jump in and try Tinkercad to make some modifications to the case. So I was putting it together. I immediately thought, wouldn't it be fun if we could add some other items, some other components to the word clock? And I realized you're putting this Pico W inside the case. This is the original back panel, and so this is kind of where you nest the Pico W. And then this little circle thing here is just so you can kind of push the boot select button if you need to load a new version of MicroPython onto the Pico. And then the USB port here hangs out the side so that you can connect it in to power. So as I started looking at that, again, I said, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could access the pins on this Pico, because we only use one pin to control the matrix. All the other pins are still available, and it'd be fun to add some other components to the word clock maybe over time. So I got into Tinkercad and learned how to cut through somebody's design. So I imported their design and I cut through some space so that I could create and push through maybe the Pico with some headers on it, so that we could connect into the other pins on the Pico. Now, as I did that and I started to get it together, I realized that one of the spacer pieces here, this is called the second frame, it actually has some spots here that try to kind of hold on to the Pico W. It's a really nice design, and but with the headers that I'm going to put on it, they were kind of in the way. And the other thing I needed is putting on the headers made the Pico a little thicker. And so I needed this to be a little thicker. So I added another millimeter to the thickness of the spacer. And as you can see here, I cut out all these pieces. Now, I'm not great at CAD, so I just cut out what I thought would work. And took a couple tries to get this one right, and I probably cut a little too much of this bar. I could have left a little bit more, but it was close enough, and it worked for me. We're going to do this modification and just re-show, I had cut some holes in here with the intention of kind of putting in this Pico, so that we could access the pins from the outside of the clock, because I wanted to maybe hook some other things up to the clock, and I had a couple ideas. I decided not to use this kind of header. I decided to use this kind of header, and I really want to put them on backwards. So this is the normal way we put it with the all the stuff on the top, the connector on the top, and then they would come out this back side of the board. But because of the way the clock is, I really want to put these headers on this way, going up, so to speak. And I want it to be like that on both sides. And I think it's going to work. Haven't tried it yet, so I guess we'll see. So I need to solder those on, and you got to have some way to keep it stable. And I've been working on my soldering skills this year, but I'm probably a little rusty right now because I haven't soldered since springtime. So it's the fall, and so I'm going to put these headers in to the breadboard to hold on to these headers, and I'm going to slide them on top because it'll hold them relatively firmly straight up and down for me. And then I'm going to take the Pico and I'm going to flip it around so that it's this way. So that's kind of doing it the opposite direction, right? And now you can see that will hold it pretty straight. I mean, it can wiggle a little bit, but it'll be better than what we could do trying to hold on to it. Now I have some of the infamous blue tack or poster tack people sometimes call it. I'm going to use this. I don't use it near parts where I'm going to solder. I try to stay very far away from this stuff because I've made a big mess of this before. But I have noticed sometimes when I'm using a breadboard like this, it'll slide on me because I tend to press a lot. So I'm just going to wedge this in, and it'll hold on to the breadboard, make sure it doesn't move while I'm soldering. I'm going to move this out of the way. That's one of the other things I've learned is just if you're not a great person at soldering, that's really important to just make sure anything important to you is nowhere near the soldering iron. And I usually use some tip tinner. I think I have it all nice and tinned up now. Yeah, it's pretty good. And yeah, that looks great. And I have it's up to temp now. And this is my fume smoke absorber. And I have some flux pen here, but I'm going to try not to use it. I don't think I need it. Yeah, so I guess we're ready to go. So let's turn on our smoke absorber. And what we usually try to do is to tack the ends and see if we get it nice and straight. So we kind of I'm going to take a look down make sure it's good and straight, and get my soldering iron out, and I'll take one of the ends here. I'll warm up that pad and pen, and I'll put a little solder on it. I think that went pretty well. And it looks pretty good and straight. So I'll come back and catch this corner too. Maybe this way. Let it warm up a second. Put a little on. And check it out. It might have been a little on the light side. So I'll just come back in and give it a little bit more. A little goes a long way, but too little and it might come off, or we might not make a good contact. Alright, so I think that side's looking good. I think it's nice and flat. So I'm going to do the other ends of this side. So I'm going to heat up this pin here. And flow a little solder on. And let go. Alright. And we'll come up here and catch this one. Flow a little solder on. And let go. Wow, that looks pretty good. Well, I'll probably speed this part up, so I won't talk anymore, but just going to work my way down. Okay, I think it's pretty good. Let's take a look and see if we need to put a little more on anything or that sort of thing. So bring it up. I think that looks pretty good on that side. And this side looks pretty good, I think. Right. Should be cooled down by now. Pull it out. And we'll take out our extra headers that were just there to help us hold on to it. And hopefully we now have this just as we wanted it to be. Yeah, I think that's going to work. So now here's the test to see is this going to poke through the way we had hoped. So it should go in like this. And I know I have it really pretty, oh, it's very tight. But yeah, look at that. Yeah, I probably made these gaps just a little bigger than I needed to. But I didn't really do any measuring when I went into Tinkercad. I definitely just tinkered. And I'm just really happy that I could make the change. I'm going to spend some time learning Tinkercad. I think I tried to learn Fusion 360, and I think I don't use it enough. And it's tricky. It's a tricky program, and I think it's really meant primarily for professionals, and then, you know, I think people who really understand CAD. And I'm not one of those people. So I mostly want to just modify things that people have already put together. And it seems like I can do that in Tinkercad with just a little bit of work. Wow, I think that came out good. I'm hoping this Pico still works. I'll give it a test. See if we can load the MicroPython UF2 file on it and program it. But then if we get it in here, you know, now when we close up that clock, this will be the back of our clock. And we'll be able to use the other pins that we want to do other things to go along with the clock. Well, some of those earlier videos was before I got everything together, and then as I started to try different things with being able to access the pins on the back, this original design wasn't really sufficient to allow a lot of different components to connect. And I realized I wanted to be able to make power and ground rails, so I needed some other way to connect things up. And so I'll show you how it is now, and then you can kind of see where I got to. So this is the final version here. I'll get it up pretty close. So I ended up putting a little mini breadboard here on the back. Right now I have it just connected up into the appropriate pins, and you can see I cut another hole so that I could get the wires from the matrix out and be able to plug them in to the Pico. But I also, instead of just plugging them directly into power and a ground, I could use the little breadboard here to create a power and ground rail, so that if I wanted to take other components that needed access to power and ground, well, especially power, I'd have a way to do that. So this provided the most flexibility, and I think this is the this is the way I'm going to do it. So now I'm going to try some other more sophisticated pieces of components that I wanted to interact with. So now you can see how I ended up putting it together. I ended up creating a lot more room in here. I got pretty nervous about the fact that it was still kind of close when I only made this about 3 millimeters high, I want to say. I think this is 5 now. And there's a lot of nice space, so there's no way that the matrix and the Pico are touching or shorting out in any way. And the original legs work just fine, even though the holes are bigger. That works okay. So while I'm Well, let me show off this stuff first. So it's kind of interesting, the pattern that I went through, and used a lot of purple PLA, it looks like. Well, this is the original back that I started with and just got the clock to work. And then this is when I said, oh, wouldn't it be neat if we could get access to the pins? And so I came up with this approach. And then I tried to make a little window to have the wires come out, but this window ended up being a little too small, just not in the right place. So I ended up just making it really big. And part of that was just because I put some hot glue down there to do some strain relief on these DuPont cables that I ended up soldering on to this. So I had originally soldered some other kinds of just regular wire to it, and then soldered directly onto the Pico, kind of as the GurgleApps video showed. And then when I decided to do something different, I realized it'd be better if I had DuPont connectors directly on here. But if I'm going to be moving them around, I better have some way to make sure this doesn't break off. So I put some hot glue down in there. There's just a picture to show how that looked. So a little extra hot glue there. And I also hot glued the Pico onto the back of the clock as well. I went through a lot of of different approaches with this, thinner and thicker. And then I went all the way up to this one didn't leave enough room at all. This was the original, and I just cut this one to try to make it work. And then I made it a little thicker, and then I made it thicker yet. So yeah, definitely a, a learning experience, and trying again. So let's see if it works this time. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna work. And it's given the Wi-Fi info. I might turn off this light here. Maybe it'll make it show up a little bit better on the screen. So yeah, it gives you the address that it got assigned by your router. Now it's getting the correct time. It takes just a couple of seconds, and it's 25 to 3, and yeah, it's 25 to 3. So I love how it works. Coming back to this video after doing all these modifications, I wanted to just finish this video here. Part 2 will come out and show one modification to the word clock using the access to the pins. So as always, I want to thank you for watching and hope you'll join me in part 2.